it's Amy from Amy's Free Motion Quilting Adventures. You can find my blog at freemotionquiltingadventures.com. I've had a bunch of questions and requests on my Craftsy class, Quilting with Rulers on a Home Machine, on how to use this feather template that is available from Westerly. I'll have to try it. Now, the first thing that I have to tell you is my experience with the feather template is colored by the fact that I can feather. I can freehand feather. So using the template is something I haven't done before. In fact, this is the first time I've used the template. It is one of the templates that came with their original foot kit. They took that out after a couple of months so that they could sell the Westerly foot and the basic ruler at a lower price point by taking out this feather template. So I don't carry it in my shop. I also got a feather spine template, and I used the spine template. I did not sew with it. I just used it to mark this curved template on my quilt top. Well, this is not a quilt. This is a sample. And I played around with it. I didn't bother watching the videos at first. Sometimes I don't like reading the instructions. So I started out here, and the first plume was okay. But then when I tried to backtrack to start my second one, it looked like a bloody mess. And the reason why is this template is designed to use kind of similar to the bump back method. When I make my feathers, let me move that up a little bit so you can see what I'm pointing to. When I make my feathers, I start here at the bottom and go around. And so when I started to come back up, it just really was not nice. So I went and checked out the video on Westerly's site and realized that I really needed to do it in a bump back method. And I kind of figured that out before I went to the video and tried to do one of these little bump back feathers and ended up with one of those hooked feathers. I've seen people make freehand feathers with these hooks, a series of hooks. So I went and watched the video, and of course that helped. So then I realized I needed to do, one feather and then backtrack up to here, and then do a bump back method where I'm coming back down, and then I'm coming up here, and I'm doing the top side of the plume, and coming around, bumping into the spine or the plume below it, coming back and backtracking a little bit, and there are markings on the rulers that she kind of explains there. I didn't follow that real precisely, but anyway, just moved the template so I had it positioned where I'd get a nicely shaped plume. I did find that the plumes that they were demonstrating did not come to a nice point into your feather spine. They were rather fat, kind of like this, and some of them were very fat. As you work with the template to kind of fit it in instead of bringing it back to a nice slope into the spine. A lot of times in order to use the template, it was getting brought in, and so you were having a fatter edge here. But anyway, all that to say, I can feather freehand. Because of that, I wouldn't ever consider using a feather template for my feathers, and I know that's not everyone's experience or decision towards doing these. I do think it is worthwhile to learn how to feather without a template, but if you want to give it a try, maybe this video will help you see how that's done. I'm going to go ahead and start back down here where I had butchered those other feather plumes and just go ahead and start. And there is a center line for each set of plumes, and because I'm using a curved spine, it's kind of hard to align that, but I've got it there now. And that is just a guideline. Now, because I'm also not using these, this is not something I use all the time, I'm just using my glove fingertips to hold the ruler in place. There are no non-skid grippies on my ruler. whether that's the stable tape that Westerly sells or a different product. So I've just come up the top side of the plume and stopped at the previous one. That previous one is one that was kind of deformed from my early experiments. And without moving the template, I'm just going back around to get to the top side of that plume. And then I'm just going to move the template up. And I can see by how wide this is on my spine that that's going to kind of give it a fatter appearance. So I'm going to move it up just a little bit and rotate it a hair just to kind of give it a more pleasing junction with the spine. And you can do this. Shows that in the Westerly video, moving it around. Of course, they also show using, you have 4 different sizes you can order. And from there, I'm going to reposition my template. And again, I'm not entirely sure how you're supposed to go about this. But it's a bump back feather method. Could have also gone ahead and done the other side instead of just going up one side. So I'm just moved up just a little bit and stitched freehand just to kind of position my template where I think it's going to make a pleasing feather shape. And remember, you've got that 1/4 inch offset. So if you think you're going to get the same size plume as the cutout, you will be sorely mistaken. So you've got to kind of move things around. Should not have moved the ruler right then, because we're going to use that plume shape at the tip to backtrack around to help guide our backtracking, which is nice. And I'm not going to backtrack very far up that plume just because I'm into this curve on the spine. See that? So I'm just going to kind of almost pivot around and let that plume curve around a little bit more. So let's hold it together. I've got my fingers on, and that's what's holding these rulers in place. You can see I'm holding it around the edges. I've got a couple fingers on, but I've also got like my thumbs off of it. I've got my ring finger on the other side. It's a little hard to see on the screen. Locking it into place here on my quilt sandwich with the friction from that latex, rubbery, whatever it is, material there. And I think I'm going to start doing it from side to side now because I've gotten back up even here. So let's get started there. I'm going to have to wind this up pretty soon. I am at my store. I am a Janome dealer now. I have a store in Lynchburg. This is So Simple of Lynchburg. And it is after closing time, and my family is wondering where I'm at. So get that back up in there. I'm going to use that template to help guide your backtracking. If you can backtrack freehand, go for it. Might make it a little less awkward. And of course, I'm using highly contrasting thread because I want you guys to see what I'm doing. I think on a typical quilt, you're going to match your thread for your feathers to your fabric. I'm going to backtrack up just a little bit more. Now, back around. Again, there are markings on these templates. And I'm going to switch over here, and then markings will help you guide the placement of the template. But you know, feathers, especially on a curvy spine, do not fit real well into a predetermined place. You've got to kind of adapt their shape for the area they're going into, for the shape of the spine. I'm going to rotate this around because I don't want it to get too pointy up in here. And remember, there's going to be that 1/4 inch offset. So just kind of rotating it around. That'll give me a bigger plume there and get it a little bit out at more of an angle. Of course, going back and forth, I don't have stitch spines here because I'm going back and forth. And you can go back and stitch your spine after. You certainly could have stitched it beforehand. I've seen modern quilts that aren't stitching it at all. Let's go ahead and get this side going. And of course, you can see I'm not hitting my back tracks exactly. I'm sure that would be a little bit easier to do if I had some sort of stable tape or something. But you've really got to kind of move these around, and maybe if I had a different size template, that would help, because right now if I just move it around and use the guidelines as they recommend, my template would go back about here, and when I stitch it, it's going to come right back into that point, and that can get a little awkward. So we're going to move it out just a little bit more and rotate it around. Slip it on over to the other side. Slide that back up. Switch it over to the other side. Now I'm starting to get where I'll put this on the line, and it's going to give me a shape that's going to be kind of fat. Let's just kind of see how that looks. I need to be able to bring it here to so it touches that previous plume. I should have demoed this with a straight line spine, but I almost always make my feathers with a curved spine, so that's what I did. Let's see, so I want to backtrack over the tip of that spine, and I did move my ruler, so I can kind of reposition a little bit. And I'm going to stop right there at that tip and move it up and just kind of angle it over. You can see that's kind of a fat bottomed, I think Karen McTavish would call that a potato chip kind of plume, just as a way to position it along the spine. Okay. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and freehand some tips here now. You can see this can be kind of tedious, but you know, if you can't make feathers freehand, this might be something that you would really enjoy. So I'm not a big user of the bump back method, but I'm going to continue that because that's the style of feathers we're using here. Need to move my template up out of the way. I'm just going to go ahead and finish this out instead of doing the bump back. I'm just following down my spine now so I can finish up this other side. Let's do that with one freehand bump back method. We'll do another bump back. I mean, feathers are tricky. If you're putting them on a curve, you've really got to be able to alter their shape easily. And I don't know that using a template really gives you that kind of freedom. But it does give you a building block to start from. There we go, coming back down that spine. And I'm just going to go ahead and go down because we've got so many of those plumes without any spine since I didn't stitch the spine first. And again, here's where I started my freehand plumes. Here's where we were using the template. And I'll go right through those points from where I switched from side to side. And we'll just go ahead and come on down the feather. Those were some pretty awful feathers there when I wasn't following directions. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it there. So there's my feather. So these were kind of mangled. And here's the rest of them. And, you know, they're not bad looking. In fact, they look pretty good through the video screen. I'm looking over the top of my camera and looking at them in person and kind of going, I don't know. But again, remember, I can feather. And if you can't feather or feel uncomfortable feathering freehand, you know, this may be something you want to do. I'm not a big fan of how the plumes look here and here. They're just kind of fat and unelegant. And you want your feathers to be kind of elegant. So it's hard to get that angle as they come into the spine with the template. Yeah, it can be hard to get that angle coming into the spine freehand as well until you've practiced your feathers long enough to be able to feather it freehand. So there's the top. Again, up here I did this freehand. Yeah, not gorgeous work, but there's the rest of our feathers. So the Westerly feather template. This is the 4.5 millimeter thickness for a high shank machine. I am using the Janome ruler foot, not the Westerly foot, to work with these. They're almost exactly the same size. Not completely, totally, but almost exactly. And I'm using a Janome machine. I like the Janome ruler foot. I'm going to keep it on my machine even if I'm using a Westerly template. And of course there's that curved spine that I had and used that from them. I'm not entirely sure how I would use that on a regular quilt. Again, this is a Westerly ruler template. Thanks for watching. If you are unfamiliar to quilting with rulers on your sewing machine, come check out my blog and check out my Craftsy class. I've got 2 classes with Craftsy on quilting with templates on a regular sewing machine. You have to have a ruler foot. Do not use rulers with your regular free motion foot. You're courting disaster. But anyway, I thank you for watching, and I hope that those of you who have been wanting to know how to use the feather template with their machines has found this useful. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.